Hi everyone, my name is Jay Agner. Welcome to the first customer. Today I'm lucky enough to be joined by one of my colleagues and friends, Alex Tuck. Welcome, Alex. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, sir. Thanks for having me, Jay.
You're very welcome. I have known Alex for about, I guess, a year and a half or two, and been an absolute source of inspiration over and over and over again. I couldn't believe you said yes to be on this podcast. Really successful guy, Alex. You've done a lot in a short period of time. Let's talk about where you came from. You're a Northeast guy. You're up in Vermont now.
So actually, in Vermont now, met my wife in college at Roanoke College in Virginia, and before that, I actually grew up probably pretty close to where you were. I was just outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Where at?
I lived in Henrico, like north of
Okay.
Lakeside.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're New Kent,
New
maybe?
Kent, baby. New
New
Kent County High
Kent.
School. Yes, sir.
Yeah, baby. That's awesome. I had a couple of your classmates that went
What
to my school.
in
I
the
went to
local
governor's school.
in the local jail with you? Oh, I thought you were.
Yeah. That's a fair joke coming out of New Kent, but yeah. But yeah, so I grew up in Richmond, went to governor's school there, and went to like had a pretty fun, not culturally diverse, but like definitely like from a county perspective, had like 12 or 15 different counties and cities represented at the school, so it was really fun, and it was very influential on sort of like the trajectory that I took in my life and my career and college and stuff. And so I ended up at Roanoke College and did my finance econ degrees there. And that was it. That was the start of everything.
So, what you wanted to do finance? Was that your big goal to
I
be
wanted to do
a
the money
nerd
thing.
with
I don't,
numbers?
yeah, so I was a first generation. So my parents both they both work in a restaurant. My mom's a Cambodian refugee.
Wow.
And so they both just tried really hard to give me all the opportunities that they could. My dad was sort of, he was from northwestern Tennessee, and they both just came from not very much and wanted to give me an opportunity. And so going to the governor's school, allowed for me to like get certain opportunities. And then when I went to college, I was like first college graduate, from either side of the family, and didn't really know what the heck to do, right? So I was like, how can I make money, right? But like, do something that's interesting and uses math and all this stuff. And so I was like, finance econ sounds good.
All
So,
right. Well,
so
tell
yeah,
me
so
about.
that's how I
So,
did it.
I did not know your mom was a Cambodian refugee. What is?
Yeah.
What's the quick story on that?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. How do we tell a quick story on
I
that?
don't know.
So,
Yeah.
so Pol Pot did some bad stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so my mom was lucky. I'll tell a short story here. So my mom came from like a relatively affluent family for Cambodia at the time. She lived right outside of a big city called Battambang, and my grandparents, both of them were they were like fruit traders up there, and the folks that did the distribution there made a lot of money, right? So anyway, they were connected with the farmers there, and they were also connected with the business people in town. And so they were pretty affluent. So my mom she was vacationing with my aunt and my uncle right near the Thai border, at one of their homes, and then the war started, and so they were about 3 miles from the border, and they basically came on the radio and they said, "Hey, this is happening. We're your family now," and they got the heck out of there. And meanwhile, worried about everyone else. So my mom and my aunt, and my uncle, they got out of there, and made it out pretty quickly. And we're in a refugee camp, and we're in the U.S. within a year. The rest of my family was there for, however many years it was that the war was,
Wow.
and most of them made it out. So
And when was that? What year was that?
my mom came in the late
You
70s.
say 70s. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, that's wild. So I didn't know that. Well, it's funny. I mean, I guess the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. You're still the man in the middle for a lot of the stuff that you do. Sounds like your grandparents did.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that there seems to be some sort of entrepreneurial thread through families.
That's right.
It's every person I've talked to is something somewhere where they've picked something up. So you went and did nerds and numbers stuff for a while. Did you? Is that there's a big gap between where we are today with this titan of project management and product management and just management consultancy. Where'd you go? We did econ, and then
Yep.
did you kind of just jump into the corporate world at that point?
Yeah, so I worked for a financial services company right outside of Philly, right near you, and did that for about 3.5 years, and then just got really bored. Helping people make money was not really my deal, and not the way that we were there. And so I went the complete opposite direction. Did my first real venture. I'll talk about some other ventures later, but my first real grown-up venture was starting a nonprofit called People Helping People Global. I did it with a couple of other folks, including my now wife. We started it to provide interest-free microloans to people in Central America. So I went and lived in Central America in Nicaragua for 3.5 years. We stood up a microlending program there.
So what is that? So what does that mean in layman's terms?
We helped people that wanted to start or expand their small businesses. We gave them small amounts of money, anywhere between $50 to $450. That was the equivalent of about a year's salary for a lot of those folks. People living on less than $2 a day. They would take that money, they would pull together very basic business plans, right? And probably half of the people didn't know how to read or write. So we would interview them and then document that internally and then work with them to think through, okay, what are your profit margins, all that stuff. So we were helping people with the money, but we were also helping them establish their business and figure out how they could grow their business.
How did you get connected down there?
We had no connection. So what we did was we did a cursory review. Isabel wanted to, she wanted to do something internationally. She talked about Peace Corps, and I was like, I can't do that. I need to start something. We need to do something different. And so we did some analysis, partnered up with some folks, and then figured out, okay, what are the most impoverished areas of the Western Hemisphere? What's accessible? What are Spanish-speaking countries? And then Nicaragua is the second most impoverished country in the Western Hemisphere behind Haiti. And so it was logical. They had an infrastructure there. So we decided to go there.
Wow. Holy shit. And you guys were in your 20s making these decisions?
Oh God, I was 23 years old. It was wild.
Dude. That's a lot. You were very altruistic from the start. It's pretty wild.
It was really cool. And
cool.
Made enough money too that we could actually pump money into the programs. It was really easy to fundraise. We had really good networks at that point. So, it was, and we could do so much with so little, $50,000 a year. That was a couple thousand loans.
And you did that for a while, right? You did that for
3-4 years. Okay. And then I ran out of money though, and so I had to come back to the States. But, on top of that, we actually established a really good program, and we had employees there. They were running the show. They still run the show there. It's still running today. And, and so it was perfect timing for us to come back.
Right. So you came back and you're in your late 20s, I guess, right? And that was
Okay. And I wanted to work in IT project management. So I started my company, and I ended up my first project was working on Obamacare in Vermont. It was a $250 million implementation. This kid, I don't know, I was 27. Maybe I wasn't a kid. I was a little bit older than a kid, but I was a young guy. And I ended up in the program management office, rolling out Obamacare. It was a hot mess, but it was fun. We had $300 million to blow through to put out this product that was supposed to get people enrolled on Obamacare by October 1st, 2013. And so learned a whole lot, worked 100-hour weeks for 4 straight years from 2013 to 2017. It was wild. But we did, it's I'm still buddies with so many people. I do work, like some of my clients are from that project. Some of
Right.
my coworkers are from that project. So
And that's because you put in those 100-hour weeks, you think, and
yeah, I think so. I think
they
so. We
saw
bled a little
something.
bit.
Well, they saw
Yeah.
something in you. I mean, it's not. I mean,
Yeah.
good leaders do typically like to deflect that sort of praise, but there's something about you that those people like then and they like now.
We all we all were in it together, right? And so, I mean, as a leader in that program, I really I wanted to be the first one there and the last one out most of the time. And my leadership was it was the same. They'd fly out from Minnesota, red eye, the night before Sunday night, and then show up first at like 4 a.m. In Vermont, and then do it
Wow.
every single week over
So
week.
so you burned through that, and then
Yeah,
America went through a very interesting time, and then now we're here. So
yeah,
where I mean that's such a first of all just like a mantelpiece item for you. Like that's such a great project to be tied to, and it's something to be said about even if you're not the upper management of a big project like that. You found a really interesting role, you dug in, and then like in your career later on, I think maybe every time I've met you we've talked about Obamacare just because it's like it's such a great
yeah.
it's such a great thing to latch onto and have been part of, and that's maybe something that other people should try to kind of look for is those big opportunities to latch onto something that down the line they can reference back and say, hey, I did work on that thing, right? And it's maybe something they wouldn't have volunteered for before.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of the biggest IT projects the government's ever undertaken, and it was done at a state level, which was interesting. But to your point, finding that keystone project or set of projects that you can always talk about, like where you can really learn, that's the key, right? So I don't run projects very much anymore. I do strategy work on the projects, but like no one would want me to run their projects anymore, right? I just wouldn't do a good job compared to my teammates. And so, but having that experience of having run a project or a program is invaluable, right? Because it creates this empathy to your team, right? You know what it's like, and as you go and introduce these ideas to your customers and try to convince them to come in and work with you, you have that experience you can always point back and reference to.
Yeah, and what a great one.
Yeah.
What a great one to be like you helped get that out.
Yeah.
So you didn't die from working 100-hour works for 4 weeks or 4 years straight. What happened after?
Yeah, so I decided that I'd done my part. Actually, I was still working Obamacare in Health and Human Services, but not necessarily on that specific project. So I was flying around the country, working on different projects in different cities, different capitals in different states, but same idea, same projects, and I did that independently. Again, I went back to Tuck again. Did that independently for a piece, and then one of my clients actually, they were like, "Alex, you're really good at cross-selling and upselling. You should come join us. Like you would get the benefits of being part of a team." And so I did it. I did that for a second, and then I was there for 8 months, and then realized that I had the entrepreneurial bug. Like I wanted to run the projects the way that I wanted to. I wanted to run the company the way that I wanted to. I wanted to have a leadership team that looked different than the leadership team that was there.
Right.
And so I left. That was 4 years ago, and then that was like Tuck 2.0, right? That was really that's what we have today. And we're 10 employees, 80-ish contractors, doing about 250 projects a year now.
Wow.
It's fun.
Wow. So there's a lot there. What when you decided to kind of go back and do Tuck 2.0,
Yeah.
that's an interest. I had a similar experience, kind of like stepping back and taking over the company full time and just doing so. What was What were some of the biggest things you applied to that second pass that you kind of learned on the first pass of running your business?
Good question. Well, one, it was really a model shift, right? So before it was just me, like I was just running projects. I was having fun with that. I wanted to be a practitioner. I really enjoyed that piece. But then when I did 2.0, I wanted to create a management consulting firm that sort of it achieved two things. One, it had to do with the team, like the team that was delivering the services, and one had to do with the customers that were being serviced. So we worked too much in management consulting. Like I think everyone can benefit from a grind. Of 100-hour weeks are crazy. No one should ever do that, right? But even at the other management consulting firm that I joined, we were still doing 60, 70-hour weeks, flying around the country, on the road, half-time. And it was crazy. And, like young millennials and Gen Zers, they aren't going to do that. Like they're smarter than we were,
Right.
like
Well, they don't have to.
they don't have to. They don't have to. They shouldn't. We shouldn't be doing that, right? Like we should have lives. And so, what I wanted to do was build a management consulting firm that focused on diversity of the team, that focused on work-life balance, that did really, really good work for our customers, high value work for our customers, but we don't need to have, like, I don't need to make all the profit margins as the owner of the company, right? Like I don't need to make the 70% profit margins that some of these companies are making. We can work really hard for about 40 hours a week and push out a lot of really high quality stuff for our customers. And so that was one part. So that's one thing that I learned and I really wanted to change with, Tuck 2.0. On the client side, what I found in working with all these larger management consulting firms was that they aren't servicing small business at all. Like small businesses can't afford them at all. Unless like they're, this $20 million A round funded company, right? And so we sort of threaded the needle there and said, hey, look, like let's work with these small businesses and provide similar management consulting services, really around project management, but we do things that are adjacent to that as well. How do we service these small and medium-sized businesses and give them a service at a cost that they could afford, right? We're not cheap by any means. They still, when they invest in an engagement with us, they still feel the pain of paying for a high quality service. And that's intentional because they take it more seriously and then longer term, it's better for them. Right. So anyway, just offering that to customers is a new set of customers and helping them understand that is a service that they can access now and that they need. That's been really fun with 2.0.
And have you, I don't want to get too much into your day-to-day strategy stuff, but I know some of the stuff is enterprise or you want to go towards enterprise. Is that, a longer pivot that you're kind of aiming towards and you're kind of, keeping the lights on with who you have and you're kind of slowly shifting towards that, or what's your 5-year on that one?
Yeah. So, we'll move up market when the time's right, for sure. We really I personally love working with small companies that are growing rapidly. The people that we recruit really love working with that demo. It's harder to work with that demo. Those people run out of money. They they get bought up. Things happen, right? But that volatility we can deal with to some extent. And look, we have our keep the lights on clients. I won't name them, but we have our Fortune 500 companies that write us big checks and probably could care less if we were there or we weren't there. Right. But so it's great to have them, and moving up market is great for that, for like company stability. But at the end of the day, like our favorite client is a company called Diet Thrive Health. They're helping people manage their diabetes, and they manage the whole supply chain for glucose monitors. They make it super cheap for their customers. They've been doing direct to consumer. Now they're doing enterprise level work, and they make it really cheap for their customers to manage their diabetes, and they get coaching and all this other cool stuff. And their stuff works. I mean, the costs are going down for these customers, and those are the companies that we want to partner up with, and they're growing. They're going to be the next unicorn, if I had to call it.
That's interesting. I feel the same way. Enterprise is so far out of our main target group right now, just because, not just the tail, like you said, the flip side of that volatility is that there's a ton of new entrants in the space all the time, doing all sorts of new fun stuff that you get to work with in that smaller, startup category.
Yep.
And that's why I love living there too. It's a fun space.
Yeah.
So Tuck 2.0 came around. Let's rewind a little bit. So talk about Tuck 1.0. I want to know, like, where did you kind of make the leap from doing your day-to-day stuff, doing your where did the entrepreneurial bug actually bite you and like make you go, okay, and then you took some of the stuff that you'd been doing over the last few years and applied that to whatever your first venture was. That's what I want to know where it came from.
Actually, so it's interesting. So even pre Tuck 1.0, it's funny. Like I'll tell you the first thing funny story. First job I had was like pouring champagne at an unnamed company at the age of 12 under the table, right? At a New Year's party. But I've always been interested in like working, grinding. Like my parents really instilled that in me. And so I think I was 17, maybe, high school summer. There was like a yellow, like, do you remember the Yellow Pages? I don't think they have those anymore.
I remember that. Yeah.
So Yellow Pages, there were the Yellow Pages, and that was the OG. But then they had this company called Yellow Book. Yeah. Editor of Yellow Pages, right? Yeah. So Yellow Book came into town. I saw this like posting somewhere. I don't know. It was probably in a newspaper back when we read newspapers. So they said they needed distributors, and I was like, all right, let's go check this thing out. And so like I went to this warehouse near the Diamond in Richmond. Yeah. Like one
the home of the flying squirrels today.
That's right, flying squirrels. Yeah. And on the walls they had all these routes. They just had these routes that you would go drive. And so I went in there, scouted it out. I was like, what do we have to do here? And they described it, and I'm like, all right, we'll take this route, right? It looked like a really dense route. So we took it. We did a run. Me and my brother, who was like 14 at the time, we did a run in my Beretta, and it was really fun. Like we were having fun. We were laughing. We were like throwing Yellow Pages, or Yellow Books onto people's doorsteps. And then like I brought in my nerdy friends. Right, went to a smart kid school, right?
Sure,
and so,
yeah, I know the governor's school. I let it fly. I know I know the clientele of the governor's school.
Yeah. So anyway, we did an analysis of the entire metropolitan area and looked at the most densely populated areas and went in there and like found all the apartment buildings and stuff. And so we took up all the routes, like the most densely populated routes, and then did that for the summer. And we didn't understand the cost of using your vehicle, right? Mm-hmm, we understood the gas. We took all that into consideration, but we didn't really take into account the wear and tear of, whatever, a 10-pound, like, I don't know, 110-pound Yellow Books on our vehicles. But anyway, it was really, really fun. We learned a lot. We learned how to manage ourselves and manage each other and partner with each other. And that was really the first, that was really the big first entrepreneurial thing. And so that gave me the bug that I knew I wanted to start PHPG, the nonprofit. I knew I was going to start TCG at some point. So
my mom did the New Kent County Guide, and it was the local phone book for like 10 years, and she had advertisers, and like she would barter for stuff. She'd trade some guy, like we had like horses, and she'd like trade for like bales of hay for like an ad in this year's like New Kent County Guide. So like it was our version of the Yellow Book. And so funny you said that, dude. Like I had the job of distributing those sometimes.
So Jay.
It's so fun, like the big like bales of them, and you had to cut they were all together. Oh man!
Oh my god! And we had to take these like plastic, like when it was gonna rain potentially, we took these plastic bags, and like we had a whole system. Anyway,
there may still be a dumpster or two in Richmond that there's like a pile that I couldn't get rid of.
Oh
My,
my
my mom's probably never going to listen to these, but hopefully she forgives me if she hears it. But so there's a great interesting story. So tell me, so let's keep going forward.
Yeah.
That's like the teenage kind of experimental entrepreneur stuff. Where did you get a little more serious and a little more refined attempt at a business, or was it Tuck 1.0?
Yeah. The nonprofit People Helping People Global, that was like a big person.
Was that you or your wife that was
That
like,
was
we're
me.
going to make
That
this
was
a
me, my wife,
business?
and a couple of people. Yeah. We basically pitched the idea to a team of board of directors, and we just went at it. And that was. I mean, like that's when we had to run a P&L. That's when we had to fundraise. That's when we had to file taxes and hire people and do all that stuff. Yeah.
All the real stuff. So you guys
Yeah.
made your first customer out of the
Yeah, that
gate?
was wild. And we had to do it like, so I tell people, I get asked all the time because they see I run a nonprofit, I sit on boards. They're like, hey, Alex, I have this idea for a nonprofit. First thing I say is don't start a nonprofit. Like, don't do it. Right. I've done more good stuff with my pro bono arm of Tuck Consulting than I've been able to pull off with PHPG, not because it's not a good initiative. It's just I can generate income through my company and do a bunch of good stuff for free. Right. And, but yeah, it was really hard. So I learned a lot about fundraising, pitching, doing all this. I'm an introvert, if you didn't know this. And
big time. I can tell.
Yeah,
everybody
big time introvert. Yeah, and so this kind of stuff drains me, right? But starting a company, pitching, like doing that kind of stuff, it teaches you how to like compartmentalize some of that stuff and to build in that reset time.
The introvert thing is so funny, man, because people would see you and say, "There's no way."
No way.
People say me and they say, "No way," and it's like, I would much rather not be around people, but but it is fun. I think that caused me for a lot of my life to like not want to meet people. And then at some point I realized like, wow, people are like, they're not that bad. I should give it a shot. And I was in my 30s, I think. And I finally started meeting people and talking to people. I think, it was my wife. My wife got me out of my shell. She's very extroverted. And I was like, stay inside, like just go home and not talk to anybody. And she's got me out of my shell. So I think
that's good.
Yeah. Is your wife the outgoing one?
Yeah. Very much. Like we have, we've made deals recently where we're only allowed to have like 3 social outings a week, which is a huge sacrifice for Isabel. But for me, that is a lot.
Yeah.
Because Jay, you're the same way, right? Like we're on 10 to 15 calls a day.
Yeah.
All day, morning to night.
Dude, 3 social events just made my palms sweat, man. I have so much stuff going on. Like that would be between sports and for the kids and everything else. I don't know how you do it either. Does your wife do a lot of the at-home duties while you're off saving the world?
Yeah. And we're like you. We don't have quite as many as you, but we have 4. We have 4, but they're all really close together. So they're 23 months apart, 1 to 7 years old, and so she's home with them. She runs the company, the home company.
Yeah,
and
the one that matters. Yes.
Yeah, the one that really matters. Make sure that we show up on time. It's real. I'm really, really fortunate to have that. But yeah, it's, I've actually stopped calling myself a pure introvert now. And I do realize I do get some good energy off of doing this, doing these kinds of things, doing the social thing. So I call myself an ambivert now because I do think I lean introvert, but I like both sides,
Ambivert.
Ambivert. That's like a new, I think people are using that
cool term. I might have to pick that up. I like that. All right. So, your wife, runs the house as mine does. What are you doing to make sure you stay alive longer for these 4 kids of yours? How are you taking care of yourself?
Good question. I'm pretty good about, I do physical activity. I mean, let's be honest.
You're a running guy, right?
Yeah. I was a track guy, cross country guy. I actually didn't get into that. So I was I was baseball, soccer through my sophomore year of high school, and then we weren't very good. Our baseball team, Governor School, wasn't very good at that.
Nobody in Richmond is surprised by that.
Yeah, at baseball,
At
but
baseball.
we were really good at cross country and track, and so I'm like, I could be on a winning team right now, and like the coach keeps trying to get me to come out, and so I went out and we were really fast. We were like 10th in the country in cross country and track. So anyway, I was really fortunate to be able to pivot into that space, and we ended up winning states. And then I went on and ran in college too. So that having a running culture around you really helps you stay healthy from a physical perspective. I still eat like crap. I still probably have one too many drinks every once in a while, but like in general, I'm pretty lucky that I have that part of me going on. And my buddies and I were talking. We're trying to figure out, okay, what's our next thing, because we're all about to turn 40, and so I want to run my PR in the 5K as an adult. So
Wow,
see how that goes. So
like
that's what's driving me physically, and then mentally. Like I really I haven't, like everyone, right? I try to have a really good morning routine, and so
do you meditate at all?
I do some meditation. Yeah. So my morning routine, I get up between 5:15 and 5:45 every single day. My Fitbit wakes me up when it can tell that I should get woken up. And then, I get up, I do like a 20-minute walk, journal, do a little gratitude journaling stuff, and little sit around, meditate kind of thing. And then chaos comes down. And then we get the kids out the door for school. And then
What time does the atomic bomb come down the stairs and hit at your house?
well, it usually is around 6:45.
Yeah.
And what's awesome is my kids sleep for the most part. So like we're usually waking them up at 6:45, and getting them out the door on the bus by 7:41. But Edison, my 1-year-old, has started to decide he doesn't want to sleep through the night anymore. So we actually had 5 in the bed the other night.
Yeah, that happens, man. That does happen.
But in general, the bomb comes downstairs 6:45.
6:45. So you get a good hour-ish of
I get an hour, and it's super efficient. So. And I go through ebbs and flows of like being really good at it. Whenever I go on vacation, or
I'm glad to hear that you have the ebbs and flows, because I can be really good at it, but I also fight to get back in it.
Yeah, it's the only way I can survive, though. It's the only way I can like turn on at 9:00 and go straight to 5:30 or 6 every single day. It's the only way, right?
Yeah.
I schedule a run in the middle of the day to like break my day up and do things like that. But if I don't get that morning routine, I really am screwed up all day.
What time do you go to bed? 10?
I'm usually pretty good. Yeah. I get 8 hours of sleep. Everyone should, like, if you want to run a business and do a good job, get your sleep, man.
Dude, before this damn baby came along, I have like my little sleep timer or whatever it is, the sleep app, and it shows like just beautiful, like,
I know.
March,
90s,
April,
right?
May,
Yeah.
and then like June 28th comes, it's just like blah, like every one of them's like 2 hours a night now. I say that my wife gets up with the baby for the most part, so I'm just sitting here complaining for nothing.
Yeah.
All right, so I have my mystery question for you, which is my favorite question to ask anybody. And it can be answered in any form that you want to answer it in. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Ooh, that's a fun one.
Dude,
oh
that's
my
like,
God.
I don't know where I heard it, but it's my favorite.
If I knew I couldn't fail, I would figure out how to address the climate crisis, right? So I would start a company that would save humanity, because we need to figure that out soon.
I love it. I love it, dude. That's a great one. That's a great one. My cousin Kim said, she listened to the podcast and said, climbing Mount Everest. And I was like, that's a good one. That's a great one. Like, cause, and then I started thinking of the physical things I would do if I couldn't fail, because there's probably lots of things that I don't know if I'd actually physically be able to do. Have you, just the climate change thing sparked this, do you do audiobooks at all?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Have you, Project Hail Mary?
No.
Dude, I'm absolutely addicted. Like I kick my kids out so I can sit there and listen to this book. It's absolutely incredible.
That's amazing.
It's a really, really good one. And I highly suggest you check it out.
In.
Awesome, dude. Let's wrap it. This was great. I loved every second of it. I hope to have you on again someday. You are an inspiration to me and to everybody else that you're around. Your company loves you. Everybody who works with your company loves you, from my company, and anybody else I'm sure loves you too, Alex. I mean it, and I appreciate your time today, buddy.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual. Thank you for everything you guys do for us.
I don't do anything. My people do everything, just like you. I don't do anything. We don't do anything.
That's right. We don't.
We just do our dumb face and like just sit here, and they do all the the real work. So, all right, buddy. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll talk to you. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk
See
to you
you,
soon.
bye. Later, man.